It is a horrible idea that there is somebody who owns us, who makes us, who supervises us, waking and sleeping, who knows our thoughts, who can convict us of thought crime, who can do thought crime, just for what we think. You're a child made in the image of God. Oh no, you're not. You're a faggot. And you can't join your church and you can't go to heaven. This is disgraceful. It's inhuman.
This is what sexism looks like.
It is time for afternoon prayers. American Muslims and Muslims from overseas, as many as 4,000, visit here every day. They come to praise Allah, give thanks, and to pray for peace.
I just have to wonder what exactly these men find so horrible about women, so distasteful about women, that they have to separate themselves from women. Or is it their God? Does their God prefer men? Seems to me that that is the case, that women are inferior in the eyes of this God and not worthy enough to stand beside a man and offer worship. Something about a woman being unworthy. I have to ask myself when I see pictures like this, when I see clips, why on earth would any woman with any self-respect want to have anything to do with a cult that separates her like she's some kind of inferior being or something shameful? Why would any woman submit to this kind of blatant sexism? That's what I want to know. Do they have no pride? Do they have no sense of honor? This is insulting and offensive and degrading. It's dehumanizing. It's like you ride in on your horse and you have the horse taken into the stable and you go into the house. That's what it is. The woman isn't allowed into this house. She's allowed into some other little room, apparently, probably not nearly so nice. Does she pray in the same manner as the men, on her knees, bowing down? Does she pray like that? Is she allowed to pray like that? And why is her voice not welcome in this great hall of men? Why is the female voice not allowed? Why does it have to be separated out? This reminds me a lot of those boys-only clubs, because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to a cult created by men that wanted it to be guys only. Oh, we'll put a little room to the side for the women to go to. They can exchange recipes and teach each other how to knit. The blatant sexism of these patriarchal cults is stomach turning. You don't see it nearly as much with most of the Christian denominations, but just look at Orthodox Jews or Muslims. Never mind the fact that women are to cover their heads, because for their heads to be showing, that's shameful. And yet for a man to cover his head, that's shameful. Talk about double standards. In every way, the Islam cult shows itself to be a man-made boys' club. We'll toss women a few crumbs now and then to keep them off our backs. We'll let them have their own little room on the side. We'll give them some rights, just not as much rights as men get. We'll tell them this is all to honor them. Yeah, we're respecting you. We're taking care of you. Right? Allah says that we should take care of you. But you don't get to testify in court. If you do, your testimony is only worth half as much. If you get raped, well, it doesn't really count as rape unless 4 men see it. I'm sorry, why do women put up with this bullshit? It makes me sick that any woman would.
Al-Khattab, a Jew who lived in Israel and abruptly converted to Islam, and Yunus Abdullah Muhammad, also a convert, both born and raised in the United States, a country whose way of life they say they hate.
I have a great idea. You don't like America? You despise the United States? Then what the fuck are you doing living here? Get the fuck out.
And the Quran says very clearly in the Arabic language, Turhibuna. This means terrorize them.
And then we have this mentality that if a book says so, it's okay for us to be criminals.
And this is a religion, like I said.
Commanded to terrorize the
disbelievers. The Quran says very clearly in the Arabic language, Turhibuna. This means terrorize them.
Terrorize the disbelievers.
The Quran says very clearly in the Arabic language, Turhibuna. This means terrorize them.
Essentially, that's what this jerk is saying. He's saying, oh, well, Allah commands us to terrorize innocent people who dare to not believe the same things we do. Allah commands it, really? And you know this how? Oh, that's right. It's in a book. The book says so. Again, I say this so many times. It's like, where's the string? Do you have proof of God? Do you have proof gods exist? Do you have proof that one of the gods that exists is your stupid Allah? No, you don't. And yet you're just going to assume that he exists and assume this book is inspired by him and assume that Muhammad isn't full of shit and a con artist, that he, really was inspired by this God for which there's no evidence whatsoever to show it exists. And we're going to use this as an excuse and a license and justification to go out and hurt people and bully people and kill people. This is a sickening deception that has caused so much death and harm in the world. All Islam is a young version of Christianity. Christianity was this 800 some years ago. Now we get to see it happening all over again with this new cult. Again, inspired by this disgusting Abrahamic fucking teachings, whatever, Judaism. The Abrahamic cults that teach that everybody's inferior except us. Everybody who doesn't believe the same way we do are subhuman and they deserve to be killed. Women are inferior and should be dominated and separated and controlled by men. You not see a pattern here? All these cults were created by men. All these cults were created by men that lived in the Middle East, where, guess what? Not much has changed in the last 4,000 years. People still think the same. People still dress the same. So, gee, is it so hard to comprehend that the creators of these cults were incredibly bigoted and incredibly sexist and incredibly intolerant people? And it is reflected in the teachings. Have humans not evolved beyond this? Apparently not. Apparently not enough of them have. And then you have women with no self-respect who happily will clothe themselves and hide themselves away because a book says, a book written by fucking sexist Middle Eastern dogs. That's what these men were who came up with this filth. They were dogs who wanted to keep women under their boot. And I'm sorry, no self-respecting woman would ever agree to this. Oh, fear tactics? You're afraid of being beaten up and raped or whatever? Yeah, I would imagine so. But again, what is worth it? What is worth standing up for? What is worth fighting back? I think this is worth fighting back. Saying, no, sorry, wear that? Fuck you. No. Why don't you wear it, asshole? That's what I would say to a man who thinks that a woman should cover up. Why don't you fucking cover up? If you think that modesty is about covering yourself, well, there you go. Why don't you show us how to do it? Why the double standards? Why are women given different rules and put in a different room and have less rights than men? Exactly what makes women inferior, fellas? And I'm talking to the people who think Islam is so wonderful. What makes women so inferior? Not educated? Well, hey, that might have something to do with the fact that a lot of your women, you deny an education. You deny them the opportunities to be as educated as your men. So what else makes them inferior? Strength? Newsflash, physical strength is not all a person is. And there are some strong women, and there are some weak men. There's also some really incredibly smart women and some incredibly stupid men. There's women who are better shots with a gun than men are, or a bow than men are. A lot of men are colorblind. Not so many women are. Men are more likely to be sociopaths than women. So, really, and I don't think men live as long as women either. So really, what makes a person strong? I think women can take pain more than men too. I think it's probably not true in every case. I'm a weenie, but a lot of women are tough and they can take pain. And I've read that women can take pain better than men. I've read that women can survive cold temperatures better than men. So really, what makes a person stronger? Is it just how much muscles you have? There's a lot of things that define strength. There's also a lot of things that define character. And a real man would not need to squash a woman and keep a woman small and childlike and helpless and dumb to feel like he's more of a man. A real man would like a woman who looks him in the eyes and can match him intellectually and keep up with his jokes. A real man would not be intimidated by a real woman. I'm sorry, I just fail to understand why women are rolling over and submitting to this disgusting, sexist cult. One more thing to stand in the way of women being full human beings.